Hey, what's going on, y'all? It's your boy Ned Mac, DFS Stats and Facts. I hope everybody's Christmas was dope. Mine was. Yeah, man. New Year coming up, but it's week 17 this week, final week of the NFL. We still gonna get this money. I don't see why not, man. Draftkings has a whole 2.75 fantasy football millionaire game going on. $20 entry. This is for the big ballers only. All right, $20 entry if you want to play. 1 million the first though. They also have another good game under that with a $3 entry if you want to do that as well. But man, before I even get started, I just want to thank y'all for all the support this year. We are going to continue with the NBA. So after this is probably my last football video, obviously, for this year. But yeah, we're jumping right into the NBA after that, man, because it's officially, for me now, it's officially basketball season. I'm also coaching basketball as well, so it's probably going to be a lot of like at work videos on break because the NBA is just nonstop, and I'm going to try to give y'all as much info and as much advice as I can without killing myself. But yeah, man, like always, thank you for the subscribes. Thank you for all the love. And let's get right into it, man. DFS value. This week, I'm going with Todd Gurley off rip, man. He had a good week last week, and he's actually been turning up in the later quarters of the season. Later games, excuse me. He is at 6,600. He has Arizona this week, who is 25 or 25th against the running backs. Yeah, no, against the rush, period. So, yeah, his last four games, I'll just yell them out. 18.5, 21.3, 20.8, and 16.8 just last week for Todd Gurley. So, like I said, man, he's heading in the right direction, getting ready for that whole, playoff thing, or if they even get there, man. Playoff picture is really crazy, but you got to be very careful with week 17. Before I go any further, I would also like to explain to y'all about week 17 and fantasy. Your fantasy league should be over, right? But I'm talking just DFS and DraftKings. This week can either mess you up or really bless you up. It can mess you up if you pick the wrong players thinking that they're going to do the same thing from week 16. So there's a couple players on here that did go off, and I'm going to talk and explain on how and why. But you also have to be very careful because there are starters this week that aren't playing. There are teams this week that aren't playing for anything. So there'll be other players in there, and you're thinking that this guy is going to do his normal routine, and he really doesn't because he's not really playing like that. Or he does play in the beginning, but then he gets pulled if his team goes up, stuff like that. You got to be very careful and mindful about that, man, because now a lot of teams are playing for momentum. They even call him Uncle Mo, but yeah, be very careful. But my next player I got is Kareem Hunt, good on value, 5,200. He's been giving you the love. He's been doing it since week 10, since he got in. Last week he only gave you 8.1, but that's because he went against Baltimore. Baltimore has been doing it all year. Cincy this week, who is 25th against running backs, and last when it comes stopping the rush. So yeah, remember that as well. And double-digit fantasies since week 10. Yeah, not including last week though. But still, 8.1 is not that bad either. You need the lower value guys too this week, man. You gotta be very smart about this week, man. This is the last week. Again, I cannot stress that enough. Be very, very mindful of who you're putting in. Robert Griffin III might be an option though this week because, like I said, players aren't playing. Lamar Jackson isn't playing this week, so you got Robert Griffin III at 5,100. He's been having fun all year and hasn't played a lick, but he is playing this game, excuse me. So I think he's gonna have a good time. Might even throw a couple dimes. You know what I mean? I don't know, but hey, just throwing them out there because a lot of people don't know that. Mess around, put Lamar Jackson in, be very upset. Yeah, stars in charge. I'm going right into it. Oh, you know what? No. Sticking with DFS value. Also, I got to talk about Rex Burkhead. He's at 4,500. Another great price. He's injured most of the year. I told you to put him in a couple weeks ago. He's been doing this thing since. And he's going up against Miami, who's 31st against running backs. So, yeah, Rex Burkhead. Don't forget about him. He had 18.7 last week. Just saying. Stars in charge. I'm going, Julio Jones, 8,500. 10 receptions. He gave you 29.6, and he is about 10 receptions away for 800 receptions on his career. And he's not a star in charge. I just think that he's high in value, but he's a good value pick for this week. He's actually not a star in charge for me this week. But my star in charge is um, Saquon Barkley. 8,700. He gave me 46.9 last week. Totally went off. But as not happening this week against the Eagles, I would have said that if I'm not an Eagles fan. I'm just saying Eagles defense is not letting you do all that. Redskins really don't care anymore, I don't think. But we'll see. But yeah, because they got to play the Cowboys this week. But yeah, Barkley, man, he had a day last week. He had 22 rushing attempts, 189 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 receptions, 90 yards, and a touchdown. It was just crazy. But again, I will say, Eagles defense this week, our secondary might not be all the way there, but even they have been turning up as of late. Our rush defense is not letting Say do that. So, yeah, I said it. This guy is not playing. I already talked about it, but I cannot let him slip by. Lamar Jackson, man, 36 touchdowns on the year, only 6 interceptions. Been doing all year. He's not playing in Week 17, but I just got to throw that shout out for him because he's just really been balling, man. And even last week, man, he had 7 attempts on the ground for 103 yards, 238 yards passing with 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. That's a star in charge in my eyes. Gave 33.8, but that doesn't even matter because he's not playing this week. But still, man, congrats to Lamar Jackson. He should definitely be MVP. I don't really see anybody else messing with him other than Christian McCaffrey, but I would just give it to Lamar Jackson. But yeah, Michael Thomas, man, 9,900, another star in charge. 3 weeks at 30-plus fantasy. 12 receptions last week, 136 and a touchdown. Was just playing beautiful football. Him and Drew Brees, that connection was crazy last week. Great team win for them as well. Then I'm jumping right over to Elite Sleeps. My boy Joe Mixon, they still sleeping on him, 7,200. Really good defensive matchup for him this week against Cleveland, who is 23rd against running backs and 30th against stopping the rush. Just last week, he had 21 attempts, 50 yards, 2 receptions, and 23 yards. And just his numbers real quick, man, coming up 17, 30.6, 21.6, and then he had a 9.3 last week. And he's pretty close to grabbing 1,000 yards rushing on the year, so that's another reason why I think he might be a good pick as well. Then you got Cole Beasley, 5,700, 7 receptions, 108 yards last week. His price hasn't been over 6,000 all year, and he's obviously been giving you the fantasy. He has 10 weeks with double-digit fantasy numbers, and 4 of those weeks were in the last 5 weeks. So Cole Beasley, do not forget about him. I told you about him before his spark happened, and then his spark happened, so I'm just saying, a little pat on the back action. Damon Williams, man, another guy who should not be forgotten. 4,700. He's back off of those injuries. You saw what he did last week. 16 attempts, 65 yards, 3 receptions, 27 yards, and a receiving touchdown. Damian Williams. Yeah, definitely put him in there. Again, I'm going to keep saying this. I'm probably going to say this throughout the whole video. Just be very, very careful, man. Make sure that these players, because some of these players, even these players that I say, might not play like that because you just never know what that team is doing. So you want to just keep up with the teams, keep up with the players all the way up until start time tomorrow with these games, man. All right? But stay away from Boy Boone for Vikings, man. He's getting to start again, but I'm off of him, man. He actually did a lot of people dirty last week. But yeah, 5,300. He only gave you 4.3 fantasy. Very disappointing. 11 attempts, 25 yards, and that was last week against Green Bay. He also only had 1 reception for like 5 yards. It was very disappointing, especially if you had him in like in a fantasy championship, stuff like that, because it's just disappointing, especially if you didn't have a choice. But Montgomery is another guy for the Bears, 5,100, 6.9 last week, 13 attempts, 57 yards. And 1 reception to 2 yards. Again, these numbers are terrible. Definitely a bum to stay away from for me. He hasn't really been doing it all year, honestly. And I was high on him in the beginning of the year, but just as the year progressed, I was just like, man, Chicago either just isn't getting him in there correctly, or he's just not doing it either. And I think it was a little bit of both. So yeah, just stay away from Montgomery this week. Yeah, that was the only 2 bums I really had. I'm not really on the whole bum thing this week, man. I'm just trying to make sure y'all pick the right players and put the people that you really need to put in. But yeah, just stay away from those 2. Green Bay's defense. I'm going to fantasy defense wins chips too. 3,000 this week. Detroit this week. Very good matchup. And they actually been playing better, man. They only allowed 23 points in the last 2 weeks. That is the Green Bay Packers defense. So that is not bad. They also had 8 sacks and 4 takeaways in those last 2 weeks as well. So yeah, man, if you're thinking defenses, low salary, good matchup for them this week against Detroit, who has absolutely been doing nothing at all. So yeah, Eagles defense 3,500, another good matchup for them this week. They have the Giants without Eli. I think that Eli coming back that last game really gave the Giants like some hope. Now Daniel Jones back in there. And look, I know Daniel Jones had a nice game last week with the 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and all that. But that was against Washington Redskins defense. That is not happening against us. And again, I would have said that if I wasn't an Eagles fan. It's just knowledge. And it's just like, yo, that's not happening again. Definitely not the 5 touchdowns. So, yeah. But honorable mention, I would keep an eye out on Slayton because I don't think it's going to matter what quarterback's in. Speedy receiver could have a big game again. So, yeah, I'll give y'all that. That's like a little before the end of the year gift, I guess. Rookies on the rise. Excuse me. Just talked about him, though. Got to bring him up, though. Daniel Jones, 6,400. He had 38.3, 352 yards and 5 touchdowns. Again, I brought him up because he did his thing last week. However, I don't think he's going to do his thing like that this week. Now, if you want to pick him as your quarterback and this last week with a lot of other quarterback and options on the table, then go ahead. But I'm not telling you to grab Daniel Jones. I'm just giving him his stats and facts for last week. Miles Sanders, another good rookie. 6,800. He had 26.2 in fantasy, 20 attempts, 79 yards, and a touchdown. Added on 5 receptions to 77 yards. Miles Sanders, however, this week, he could either have something like that again if Carson stays hot. He could have something like that again. And he could not. So that's fantasy. A.J. Brown, another rookie, 7,000. In the previous last 3 or 4 games, last week was actually his weakest at 15.3. But yeah, A.J. Brown, I think, ends the year strong. Titans actually been playing well. Derrick Henry probably messed him up last week with the whole I'm injured all of a sudden thing, and he didn't play. I know he messed up a lot of other people's championship stuff too. But yeah, A.J. Brown, man, week 15 he had 28.4, and week 14 he had 36.6. So I know he only gave you 15.3 last week, but don't forget about A.J. Brown, man. And yeah, also not to mention he's closing in on 1,000 yards receiving on the year. So Tannehill might play when it comes to that. Tight ends turning up. Zach Ertz is not playing in week 17. So who do we go with? Dallas Goedert at 4,900. Great in value. He's definitely going to give you that. Just gave you that last week. More than that. 24.1, 9 receptions, 91 yards, and a touchdown. When people came to me and told me that Zach Ertz was hurt, I didn't get upset. I didn't feel any type of way because I know that we have Dallas Goedert. I've been also saying this all year. Dallas Goedert should definitely be getting more playing time, or at least throw him out there a little bit more. That's literally the same thing I just said. But yeah, Dallas Goedert, man. He's a great tight end. I like his speed. I like his yards after catch, and I like his height. So don't forget about Dallas Goedert against the Giants, where Zach Ertz actually did have 2 touchdowns in the last meeting against the Giants. Jared Cook, he's definitely been a tight end turning up. 5,200, gave you 23.4 last week. 3 receptions, 54 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Can he keep it going, though, against, Carolina, who's supposed to be 3rd against tight ends? So we'll see what happens with Jared Cook this week. Mark Andrews is questionable, but he had a good game last week. 6 receptions, 93 yards, and 2 touchdowns. 6,500 is his price this week. Gave you 27.3 last week. I don't know. Without Lamar Jackson, let's keep in mind that RG3 is coming in. So does he throw to Willie Snead? Does he throw to Marquise Brown? Does he throw to Andrews, Hurst, Doyle, Boyle, whatever? Don't know. So you also want to keep that in mind if you are going for Mark Andrews and picking him. A lot of other tight ends over there. Jared Cook and Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert is way cheaper than Mark Andrews and probably give you, if not the same fantasy, just a little bit under that. But this week, man, since he is starting, I think I got Dallas Goedert projected either the same as last week or just a little under it. So that's about 20 fantasy for Dallas Goedert. Running backs running-ish. Had a couple last week. Boy, Aaron Jones, 8,200, man. Gave you 32 fantasy, 23 attempts, 154 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Worth mentioning. Detroit's defense is 29th against running backs, and guess who they're playing? So yeah, definitely want to throw Jones in there if you can. Another good running back. If you can't throw Jones in there, might as well go to my boy Kenyon Drake at 7,100. Definitely found his new team. 36.4 last week. 24 attempts for 166 yards and 2 touchdowns. 3 receptions and 18 yards. He's been doing his thing. Now this guy is just unbelievable. Next person I'm going to say is Christian McCaffrey. He's at 10,000. He's obviously been doing it all year, averaging damn near 30 fantasy every week to week to week to week. Gave you 35.3 just last week, 13 attempts, 54 yards, 15 receptions, and 119 receiving yards. No touchdowns at all. And that's a bad man to still give you 35.3 on fantasy. That is absolutely nuts. I know his price is crazy at 10,000. So that's totally up to you because there are running backs that can give you that same value, especially in this week. But yeah, Christian McCaffrey, man, definitely not to be denied this year. And I believe he's chasing the record as well, but I don't know if he's going to get it. He's about 200 and some change off from the record, 214 or something like that. He's projected to go a little bit under that. A lot of people don't think he's going to get it. But I don't know. I'm staying away from him because he could. But wide receivers, wildin'. You got my boy Devontae Adams. Definitely is starting to turn up late because he had the injury against us earlier in the year and was out for a little bit, came back or whatever. Really wasn't the same, but now he's starting to turn up with the 13 receptions, 116 yards last week. Week 15, he had 26.3. Week 16, he had 26.6. Detroit this week, who's 18th, or 28th against wide receivers. So you want to keep him in mind. Along with Perriman, who is still basically the lone wide receiver out there for Tampa Bay. Mike Evans is still out, as well as, what's the other boy's name? I cannot remember his name. But I go back to that. Perriman, 20.2, 7 receptions, 102 yards. And they have Atlanta this week. Godwin is his name. He is also still not playing for Tampa Bay. Tyler Boyd, 6,700. Definitely do not forget about this guy. 6,700, right? 36.8 in fantasy last week. 9 receptions, 128 yards, 2 touchdowns. And they have Cleveland this week. Cincinnati against Cleveland. Cincinnati is literally just fighting for a little... I don't know what they're fighting for anymore. But the game don't matter to either team, really. So Boyd could possibly go off depending on how Andy Dalton plays. But yeah, my quarterback question is all around Robert Griffin this week. How does he play? Does he come out there just to play against the Steelers? Does he go for the win? Like I said, he's been having fun jumping in the camera all year, but now he actually has to play. So what is he going to do? Does he try to do what he used to do or what Lamar Jackson is doing now? Like, I don't know what Boyd going to do. How healthy is he? Is he going to be getting sacked a lot? I got a bunch of questions for Robert Griffin III, man, because really, honestly, when was the last time he really played? So, a little risky pick, though. Good on value, though, probably. Probably could help y'all out, get y'all more people if you do pick him. But yeah, man, again, thank you for all the love and support for DFS Stats and Facts, NFL edition, Draftkings, and all that. I will continue to be on here, though, for NBA. Probably have a couple guests as we go down because the NBA is a very long road. But yeah, man, definitely just really appreciate everything. I remember when this is just a thought, and now I'm really on here. So thank y'all, man. Enjoy the rest of y'all year. Get y'all money on week 17. Stop playing. And yeah, man, just be very careful and mindful about what we talked about. Later.